Okay, so here are my takings of the day, and I promise you, they're annoying. I'm sure there's got to be, I haven't researched, but I'm sure there are people in this YouTube world that have probably discussed this more than I can fathom. But quite frankly, I've come to the understanding and realization that all the red tape you got to go through for basic, policy. What is the purpose of policy, corporate policy, and how is policy a benefit to the customer or to the consumer? So, what is it? What is the purpose of a policy? A company creates a policy to establish certain criteria, certain boundaries of certain tasks that are to be done in order for certain benefits to be given, right? You have a policy that says this is how we do this. This is a criteria that is needed in order to quote unquote qualify for this service. But policy, is it really a benefit for the consumer? So if you're a cell phone user, do those policies operate for your benefit, or do they operate for the benefit of the consumer? Of the vendor, supplier, whatever you want to call them, organization, company. So they do this to be selective, to say this is how you're supposed to come to us. So you got to come to us correct for what we got to offer you. That's what they're basically saying. And you need to be a certain type of person in order to benefit, because we're not giving this to just anybody. It's got to be a certain type of somebody. All right, so there you go. Then you realize that they're offering you one service, like, we'll give you this thing, the phone, and then we'll give you this service, your plan. But the phone and the plan don't go hand in hand. They make it look like the phone is a benefit and that the plan is somewhat of a benefit, because obviously you get the phone for free if you get this plan. So, or you only pay this for this phone if you get this plan. But it's like bait and switch. We'll give you a phone of a certain value. We'll make you think it's special. But okay, now you agree to, okay, I'll pay for that phone. I got to pay it off. Until I pay off that phone, they're going to add it to my service bill. So they can do that. They can add the phone to the service bill. But you know that the phone doesn't come from the carrier. The phone comes from a phone company, like iPhone, for example, right? Apple. This is so annoying. So you go ahead and get your phone and you have your plan. But if you had an option, if you had a choice, you'd say, give me a phone and it's here. I bought this phone. It's mine. I bought it. That's it. There's nothing to deal with. And this is the plan that I want. I want something where I can do it, where I have this, this, and that. How much do you charge for it? This. That's it. I want to pay for that, and I'm going to pay for this. Once you have that, all you have to pay is this fixed price. So what are these surcharges, fees, this and that, and you'll have this service, but then you got to pay this extra service for that and that, the other. And then before you know it, you're paying like 3 times what you agreed to pay on. Now you're getting charged just to have it for some other reason. So all these things, right, they come together. And then when you say, okay, I own this phone. I want, this is obviously a personal gripe, okay? I don't give a shit who's listening. But I'm going to resolve this motherfucker one way or the other. It was like, okay, so I need to meet these 3 criterias in order for you guys to unlock my phone. But that's assuming you own my phone and I have to go through you. Why do I have to go through you if this phone is paid for? My phone being unlocked shouldn't be hijacked by a policy you have that says I have to have this taken care of for you guys to do this. It's like me telling, or it's like little kids, right? Well, I'll give you one of my candies if you got to give me your candy for 10 days. Okay. And then besides that, then it says, oh, I'll give you back your candy after 10 days or whatever. But only if you do A, B, and C. Now you're jumping through hoops just to get back what was yours. And then on top of it, you're getting like fucking, anyways, abused for lack of a better term. So, never mind. Okay. Anyway, so my point is that then these people are so programmed to just have these answers, right? These very quick, it's like they have their little chart that says, if a customer asks for this, you respond in this manner. If not, you respond in that manner. For these situations, bring them here. For those situations, bring them there. So when a customer asks, who wrote the policy? Well, it's nobody here. It's the owners and stuff. The people that made the company. The people that made the money, that financed the business. Those people. And I'm like, so you don't even know who those people are? You work for them, but you don't know who they are. And you don't have a personal email to reach somebody in a position that is in charge of policy writing? You can't get in touch to one person that wrote a policy? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense, does it? So then, well, even if I transfer you to everybody in the building, supervisor, whoever, nobody in the little T-Mobile customer service department, with the little finance department, with their little this department and their that department, nobody in that building at all has a clue who wrote their policies and how to get in touch with them and why those policies are in place. All they know how to do is to give you a script that says, that's policy. You have to pay this, and you have to do that, and you have to have that in order. So if the 3 checks don't go on their little computer, they can't access a computer. They can't bypass it because they act just like the robotic machines that they use to process everything you do. You see? And it's not their fault. It's not like they're just doing the job that they signed up to do and they were being paid for. They said, this is your job and this is how you do it. It's like, we're not training you to resolve the problem. We're training you to do a job. You handle this part of the job. Somebody else handles that part of the job. Somebody else handles the other part of the job. XYZ, right? All these departments, all these little people, you got these little cliques of groups of people that do certain tasks. But each group of individuals doesn't really operate with all the part of the system. They're operating with independent groups. In other words, like the billing department might work with or team up with or discuss issues with what did I say? I said billing department, billing and pay. What's the other one? Jesus Christ. My brain is scattered as fuck. Accounts payables, accounts receivable. Okay? Fuck. Accounts payables and accounts receivables. Those two, they're not even, I mean, you would think that finance is in all finance. All of, like, the Department of Finance deals with everything finance. But no. In this case, you would have the people that deal with finance when it comes to what you owe, the people that comes to finance when it comes to what you're paying out, the people when it comes to finance when it comes to the products that are outside of our policy or outside of our jurisdiction. These are the words that they use, but it's really keeping everybody kind of in their own little independent worlds, doing just their functions so that the one at the top of the thing that wrote the policy understands it. The one that wrote the policy sees, oh, okay, we have, in order to be effective and efficient, everything has to roll smooth. And what roll smooth is, we want a customer to want our product to come in. Once they come in, we want to sell them a product. And if we can add on all these different products to it, more power to us. Then we create a contract that says, this is what you're going to do in order to keep this. And we're going to charge you if you don't abide by A, B, C, and D rules. And even after you've paid whatever it is that you have, if you're trying, basically, this is like the Hotel California song that goes, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That's some devil ass shit. Tell me that's not fucking nasty. Like, this isn't even a person anymore. Because I'll be honest with you, policy isn't even like, only small companies use policies like in the like actual physical paper computer typed up, this is what we're doing policy. You don't have that shit in corporations. Corporations, that policy was written in fucking 1956 or some shit. And all they do is update it. They receive updates from regional. They receive updates from, and it comes from, obviously, at the top, at the White House in Washington. The policy is written there, or any updates or changes either come from up there. Okay, now, let's say the kids in school. Policy is that now they can't vape at all. If they're caught with vaping, they're going to be suspended, period, right? Okay. I like that policy. That's a fair policy, I would say. You don't want your fucking kids involved in vaping or smoking or anything like that. If they're going to school, they're going to school to fucking learn. And at least to be disciplined. At least if they have their habits, let those habits be outside of school. But they want to make a strict rule about that policy. But now you imagine a situation where the policy states, if you're caught with it under no circumstances, blah, 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 we don't, like, they don't want to hear it. But now, truly, if that child, let's say a child that goes to the school, doesn't know, didn't really pay attention to the policy, their parents didn't really discuss the policy, it was in and out of their ears before they even understood what the fucking word policy meant. All they know is, hey, you're not supposed to have this, and that's that. And it's like, okay, fine, we're not supposed to have it. But imagine that kid being dumb enough to, right before school starts, some other kid's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. You want to come here, have some, hold it, or I'll get it for you later, but I can only bring it to you at school. Whatever. I don't know how the fuck they'll get involved in fucking it up and bring you into school anyway, right? And then they end up getting fucking busted. But now there's no conversation whatsoever about how this is like a really good student. This student would never do such a thing. It's like there has to be a human there to look at the circumstances independently, to look at each issue that comes up as a possible discrepancy. And it's like, it's one thing to say, okay, it should at least say you have the right to dispute this. It should be very obvious you have the right to dispute this at any time. And when you dispute it, if you understand your right, if you understand what is being done, and it makes logical sense, and you can explain yourself to the person, and that person can understand where you're coming from, and you can both say, well, if this is fair, then this is fair. And if this is not fair, this is not fair. And can we see where this is hindering this thing, even though this thing shouldn't really be an issue for that thing? It could be anything like that. And two people can come up and agree and say, yeah, in this situation. But the problem is they have like a certain fear. If we allow it for one, then we have to accept it for all. Well, guess what? Not everybody's there. Not everybody understands it. Not everybody can do it for themselves. They can pretend, like where I used to work, that people would think that memorizing certain things that they heard, that they had to have the answers for. So they try to circumvent the law, right? And they're going to pretend that they're doing this thing to get this benefit. Whatever that benefit is, it doesn't matter, right? So whatever it is, they find out what everything is that needs to be, what the criteria is, and they try to fit into the criteria in order to gain the benefit. So the thing is that when they try to do that, the person that actually knows how to understand the system, it's not going to be easy to get one over on the person that knows the system. But also, the one that does know the system, when you do have a complaint, they're the first ones that can solve your problem. So the best employee at the front line is the best problem solver. The best problem solver understands the problem at the root, but also sees the bigger picture. This is fucking true in any level of operation. This could be your local DMV. This could be your fucking car salespeople. This could be anywhere that you would get a service. You as a consumer have to understand your rights as a consumer, but also you as a employee of a corporation really, truly, honestly should understand who you're working for and should really want to know what their policies are and how they really operate. Are they integrous or not? Because you're going to be working for a company out of integrity, and you're going to be sitting at the front lines dealing with all these people hating on you because you're just doing your job. And even if you know how to fix a policy, even if you know how to resolve the issue, it doesn't benefit the corporation for you to fix the issue for every customer that comes your way, because that's less money in their pocket. Or they think that you don't have the proper discernment or the proper so you got to kind of see it from both sides, because then they assume, oh, you can use this wisdom or understanding to cheat us, but the person with integrity wouldn't cheat, right? But if you're truly in a position where you're the creator of an organization, you should know who you're putting in your front line. You should know who you're putting at the back of the line. You should know who you're putting in policy creation. You should know who you're putting in charge. You should know, because if you got to the position of creating the organization, then you understand every aspect of what's being done in that organization. So if you uphold the highest standard, if you uphold the best, integrity, that's what you're expecting from your team. That's what you're expecting from the people you're hiring. So the people that you're putting in the position to handle positions beneath them, in other words, let's say like you're the owner, and then you decide to hire a manager, and from that you get that manager to hire 2 supervisors, and then you get that manager to get those 2 supervisors to hire a team of at least 3. For example, something to that level. You may not know who these 6 people at the bottom of the totem pole are as the owner, right? You may not really know them because you're somewhere else, but you leave your business running underneath, for example, that manager. And that manager you have a relationship with that manager, because that's your person that's taking care of that thing you created for you. That's your second-hand man, so to speak, right? You're going to ensure that person and you are on the same level of integrity, or that you can basically say, this person would do it just like me. This person would not tolerate the same things I would not tolerate. Like, whatever the values are, these people would have very, 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 if not the same, very similar values. This is like, we come from one and the same. So whether the values are positive or negative, that's how it is. So if you see a crooked organization, don't think that doesn't start at the top. It has to. It's crooked from the root, and the root is at the top. If you think about it, in the corporation, the highest person there, technically. See, now here's another thing. You might see, like in our case, where we see a White House and then we see our president, like this is a person that supposedly is in charge of everything. Well, guess what? In the physical world, the person that created the position of the president had to appoint the president. So whoever's appointing the president is really the one that's in charge. And that's what they would call the... I was going to reference the show Scandal, where even the White House wasn't in charge. It was, I don't want to give it away. But anyways, so my point is that if you as an organization, so maybe this is a message for those in big corporations. Maybe this is a message for those that built companies, right? You have a certain level of integrity and expectation. You need to make sure that the person you leave in charge of this thing is doing things as you would do it. Because it will, though, if you do that and that person has the same values and same vibe, it's like the tree from, or the seed grows and produces the same outcome in like either a positive outcome or a negative. Oh Lord, I would just say that when it comes to policy, those policies are being written, and that those policies should be able to be challenged. And if not at the top level, the person in the front lines should be the one that truly understands what the purpose and reason for these policies are. So that when someone comes, it could be on a case-by-case basis. No policy should be done in a way that is cookie cutter. Where it's not about house building where you have I mentioned this earlier, where you have, let's create, the creation you create might be cookie cutter because it's convenient and everybody likes symmetry and similarity or whatnot. It makes it more comfortable. Like, so there's no jealousy and there's no, oh, why is theirs better than mine? Why does this look different than that one? And too many options makes people confused. And so let's make it all one, make it easy. Let's manufacture all the same product just like that, right? Obviously, they're not going to make a certain iPhone. They're going to make like 5 different versions of an iPhone, styles or whatever, and they're going to manufacture a ton of the same kinds. They're going to, the ones that are most popular, the ones that people gravitate to more, they're going to make more production of that versus less production of the ones that are least. And then they're not going to invest in producing that. They're going to change it up. But the person that is writing the policies is so that there's at least a space of what services are available and why are these criteria being made. And despite the criteria that are being made, there might be an exception to the rule. But the person that's doing it shouldn't default to, oh, that's just policy. Do it or get out of here, because it makes the organization just look awful. And that one voice can influence many. They can go to their parents, their siblings, because that one voice will recommend that organization and give so much business to that organization and so much energy to that organization. But if that organization didn't value that one customer can ruin an entire organization if they rally up enough people to say, this is a piece of shit company and this is why. Just imagine. So if they're not putting into account the best value for their customer, because their customer's appreciation is what fucking gives them business. So if they don't appreciate each customer and treat them as their gold, or treat them as, this is because of you we have great service, they can put that shit on the little algorithms of their customer service systems, where you got these robots that you got to text just to get validation that there's someone there that can help you with something like customer service. You're dealing with robots 9 out of 10 times. Like, you got to be very specific to get to an actual person, right? So imagine these programs that they're based on what? They're based on, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Have a nice day. Oh, I really enjoyed talking to you today. You're one of our favorite customers. It's so robotic. It's like that fake nice. And it's like, don't appease to my ego and assume that I'm that stupid. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this company. They treat me so nice. Bitch, if your fucking services aren't making sure I'm happy, then you best believe I'm not happy with your fucking services. There's a reason I'm not happy. Number one, I can agree to what is clear, and I'll do that. You tell me this is how much. I'm not going to say I can pay something I can't pay. I'm not going to do something I can't do. So if you tell me this is what it's going to be, and then if I don't have it, I can give you advance notice, say I'm not going to have it, go ahead and cancel it. I should have the freedom to give you the courtesy of an advance warning and cancel. But to try to obligate people into all these things and put all these charges, what the fuck is that? How is that even possible for companies to get away with that and think it's cute? And why are there lawmakers that are allowing it? Because there's nobody contradicting it that often. Maybe there is. Maybe I'm late to the game, of course, as usual. That's what it always feels like. Like, are you just late to the game here, girl? Listen, it's all about perspective, for real. Because I can understand. It's like I was saying, how these companies are made. Your mind gets fucking compartmentalized in that sort of kind of way, where it's hard to see. I think this is also like an INFJ thing. I think they say you can't see the forest for the trees kind of thing, where it's like you can get so consumed by one aspect of a situation, and then just kind of like, to avoid having to like go through the maze of discovering at the basis, this doesn't even make sense. Like, wait a second. I used to hate when they would say the customer is always right, because you could see who would abuse it. But when you got someone that understands their rights and the rights of the people they serve, then there is no getting hostile. There is no getting out of order. There is no getting... And that's the thing. People aren't learning what matters in terms of doing their jobs. So if that's the way it is, you also don't look at things holistically, because if you're pretty much trained to look at things, all I have to know is these things and do my part. And I know that those people do that thing and those people do that thing, but do I really know how that thing and my thing all go together? Unless it's something I have to do on my own routine, I'm not going to notice anybody else's routine. I'm not going to notice how other things are working alongside with what I got going on. And many people that work in organizations, that's how it is. You have nobody sees a chain of command easily, or nobody see what the whole. It's like, okay, like in the military, you're on a ship. This is the best thing. They actually teach you, okay, this is the whole organization. This is what we are. This is what we do as a whole. This is our what do you call that? I can't think of the name of that shit now. Oh, Lord. It's not our value. Our core values. These are our core values. Like, they put that shit, they make you say that shit every day so that you know, okay, these are our core values. But understand those core values too. Don't just repeat them like a fucking parrot, right? You understand them. But then you understand these are all the departments that work here, because it just makes it easier and more organized. But you have to understand how each part plays in the whole system. We're not just trained to understand our one part. We're trained to understand how our one part is integrated to all the parts. But they don't do that in civilian work. I have not seen it or experienced it in any job. And I say civilian work, but also in some government work. The only place I have seen a certain type of discipline that makes sense, at least to me, that yes, even when there has been a policy in place, even when there is something in place and some discrepancy and that discrepancy gets challenged, or that policy gets challenged, it's at least a system that you can depend on that says, if that number one, you have a right to challenge it. Number two, there's a proper way to challenge it. Number three, you're going to understand why it was put there and why. And then if the reasons it was put there does not have anything to do with integrity, it will be changed. It will be fixed. It will be rectified. It will be made right, because the lack of integrity is not even tolerated. So, when you come from that, and then, like I worked in like some shady operations, right? Like in not military, in terms of jobs before I went into the military. Certain organizations, different types of industries, and it's like, okay, a lot of companies or a lot of, small businesses or a lot of small organizations operate in shiesty ways. And then I ended up going to the military, and then what a comfort to be like, oh, this feels so good, where everything is so organized, everything is so makes sense, everything is, you can do this, like everything was clear. There was an insurance or a surety of that if you don't have the answer, someone will help you find the answer, and you would know exactly who to go to for that answer. So it to me, it was refreshing that I didn't have to think too hard. Like, they made it dummy proof times a wazoo. And I'm not calling myself no dummy. I'm very wise. However, I can be very dreamy in certain areas and tune out, tune in, whatever. Like, certain lectures you can't sit through. Certain understandings don't quite fit right in your brain. And you're like, what the fuck did they just say? What was that? I mean, how does that work? Okay, logic and practicality doesn't always register very good for a creative mindset person. So going from my creative side to my practical side, and then being forced to like learn it off the cuff, and the anxiety that comes with, and that was, my first experience with work. It's like, all right, this is what you're going to do. And you got to learn this from A to Z and blah, blah, blah. And then this is how, and blah, blah. And you're just like, what? You got to take all these notes, and you got to and to calm that insecurity before you even do the job or before you do the thing, you got to get good with you, comfortable in your own skin. You got to physically be able to like handle the pressure of doing things correct or doing things effectively, efficiently. And that could be any task. Cooking. Like the first time you cook dinner for more than one person, not just yourself or not just you and somebody that you're really close to, but you're cooking for others. And if that's not something you regularly do, when you do it, at first, you're going to be awkward, or you're going to be afraid, or you're going to be not natural, or you could be anxious. I'm speaking from experience, people. I am the anxious expert. So I don't have anxiety anymore, but I promise you, I grew up like a fucking... What do you call that? Like an anxious fucking ball of yarn, like wound up very, very like that. And the only thing that I was free to do with me, the only thing that I was free to be was when I was myself. And then you go out there, it's like you get these looks, or you get these weird, comments, or you get these, you're like, why are they so... Like, what did I do wrong? Oh, shit. Because then you start to realize what's going on around you. So going from that and kind of just being thrown into like a box, and this is how you have to do the box, it throws you off, because now you can't, like if you're like, I was a visual learner. I could watch somebody, like I could watch my dad drive, and by the time he let me drive, I already knew what I was doing. I knew why I was doing it, what everything was for, and without even asking him originally. So, but it's the attention you give to something, right? And or I could watch my, grandmother or my aunt crocheting or doing some kind of knitting or something. And I'll watch and watch and watch. And then by the time they let me practice, I at least know what I'm doing. So it's not like going to a new job that you've never done before. Okay, so you're going to be working accounting today, and you've never done accounting. You did something previously with a little bit of numbers and put that on your resume. And just because you have all this other background that proves that you're, a quick learner, a good worker, blah, 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 but you add that little thing, that little bit of experience with numbers, it gets you in the door. And it's like, okay, so you know a little bit of numbers. Well, here you go. So now this is how our spreadsheets are done and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what the fuck? And you're seeing a whole language that you were not familiar with. And it's like, basic math, how to do, anything that you were taught in school doesn't really apply in managing finances, in understanding APRs and percentage of this and balancing out that and surplus and all, like economics and finance is not something that you get to experience or practice while you're at school very clearly. You dabble in here and there, but it's not until you actually go to, a company and get put into like, okay, here's payroll department. You're going to learn how to do everything payroll. Oh, here's a gun. You're going to learn how to undo this gun and put the magazine and blah, 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 and clean it out. And I'm like, what the fuck? You get thrown into things. The only way to really know something is through understanding it. And the only way that you can honestly understand it is by making the mistakes and going through the things that you go through to become the expert in what you do. So when I talk about policy, it's like you don't know anything about policy until policy is being challenged. And that could be the policy of your life and how you run your reality and why you have to explain why this is a boundary, this is a rule, and this is what and sometimes it's not that it cannot be challenged. It's put there. It's supposed to be put there. The purpose of policy is supposed to be for protection. But policy is supposed to protect the integrity of the exchange of energy that's going on. Honestly, that to me is what the true purpose of policy is to maintain the integrity of the dynamic between policymaker and policy adhered to. So that could be parent and child. You make a policy for their well-being, for your well-being. They might challenge it, and you might say, okay, I make these rules because I don't deem you in integrity, in the integrity that's required for you to go through that experience. That's not being a gatekeeper. That's giving her a reason why she, like, for example, giving my daughter that reason why she couldn't do a certain thing. Well, because this reason. I don't think you're old enough or mature enough. It's for her to show me how she understands the purpose of the boundary or the purpose of the reasoning. And then by example, by how she conveys the message of understanding, would I be willing to say, okay, we can make a change to this policy? But that goes with the same concept of a customer that's going to accept whatever the provider gives them. And they say, well, it's because you have to, you got to pay this. And you're just like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice my children and my responsibilities that are more pressing or more important, that take precedent, to uphold a policy that's going against me based on and I haven't brought up that if they think they can get away with it, they do. But the moment you realize, wait a second, I'm your customer, I'm the one I'm giving you all this money every fucking month. And I'm paying these fees and I'm not challenging you on them. I'm just paying them because it's convenient to just deal with it. And here you go. It's not a big deal. It's chump change. Here, it's $5 here, $6 there. But every month that shit adds up. And then oh no, it's $20 for this service. And it's 20 for that. And 15 for that. Starts adding up. And before you know it, by the end of the year, you've paid off a bunch of shit for these motherfuckers and then they want to treat you like shit on top of it. It's like, wait a second, motherfuckers. Wait a fucking second. No. Don't give me that shit. Nobody wants your fucking service that bad, believe you me. If I didn't need it based on the damn system that was already created around that says I need it because in order for this, you got to have that. In order for that, you got to get this and this and that and that. That's the policyholder motherfucker that I want to talk to. The one that's gridlocking society into believing that in order to have a car, they got to go through these many avenues. In order to have a phone, they need to go through these many avenues. To have a house, these many avenues. Wait a second. Who's doing that? Don't tell me that it's my government, because then my government will defer me to the organization that's creating it. The organization that's creating it is deferring me to the government. And it goes back and forth. And nobody really knows who's doing it. And that's the problem. Why are the policyholders not in the front line right there? Because they are supposed to advocate for the people. But that's what organizations don't want to do. They don't want to advocate for the people. At least the crummy ones. The good ones are going to put their policies right on the front door. They're going to offer it to you. They're going to find a solution that works, because at the end of the day, what they're there for is to serve you. And if they know that the policy is faulty, not by by what they do, but because there's something that they're involved in that has to do with something beyond them, they should feel compelled to fight along with you to ensure that those policies are rectified. You see? But when it's a crummy company that likes the benefits they're getting from abusing the customer, that's when shit hits the fan. Because that's when disagreements happen. They try to keep it on the low level. Then they try to use legal actions that are not really legal. Like so the moment I'm like asking these people, they're like, oh yeah, well we have legal correspondence. Everything else you can reach them online. Everything else you can make one quick phone call. But no, for legal correspondence, suddenly you have to write to their department by mail. Why do you think that is? Why do you think suddenly that has to go by mail? Because they want paper trail. They need a paper trail. So whoever is smart enough to say, transfer me over to your legal department, they need to see the paper trail that you're willing to leave behind in order for them to cover their ass. Because now they'll deal with you because you were smart enough to get to a face or to get to an actual place where they have to. So always go straight to the nuts. And going straight to the nuts is go straight to the fucking legal department. Don't be afraid to deal with no legal department of any fucking company, because they seem to be the ones that the company pays to go to in order, like, whenever there's any discrepancy and the person and they don't feel this high power, like, arrogance because they can't get away with it. Like, if you challenge them and you keep your cool, like, you're not, like, this is what they do. You can talk to them politely and be like, I understand that you can't do anything about it, ma'am, sir, but can I see your supervisor? They'll get pissed because they think you're going over their authority, and they'll want to fight you, and they want to act like you don't have a choice. And it's like, motherfucker, what fucking world do you think I live in? I know I have a choice. Don't tell me I don't have a choice here. Who are you to tell me I don't have a choice here? Let me hear that shit from the top, bitch. Let me hear that from the boss. Let me see that shit in a policy where you're telling me I don't have a choice. And if you talk like that, they tend to listen to you at least a little bit. And then from there, they're like, let's see what we can do. Let's get a supervisor. And then the supervisors are all scattering around like little shits, all scared because they don't know. They're all hiding behind closed doors, talking to the big district manager. They're on their phone talking to their big legal people. And the legal guy is like, oh shit, we haven't had a real case in 20 years. And all of a sudden, he's getting all his dusty ass books out. And he's freaking out because he doesn't know how to handle this hostile person that knows a little something about something. And then they're like all hush hush, and all the other stupid employees are just watching. Why are the big bosses? Why are they scattering around? Why are they acting so like uptight? Everybody's walking around huffing and puffing, pissed off at people. Like, who let the cat out the bag? Who fucked it up? Why did they fight with them? Because now we got a legal issue. Why you got to talk to them like that? Like, that's what they're afraid of. That's why they make policy. They make policy so you don't fuck it up for them. So you don't get them into legal trouble, because they're more afraid of the law than you are, buddy. Believe you me. They're more afraid of the law than you are. And so you got like this customer service rep that all she can do is, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, that's the number. You call them and you email them you write them a letter and this is it. I'm like, okay, ma'am, and what is your name, please? Yeah, my name is, and they'll give you their name, but they're so hesitant to do that because the last thing they want is their name on a piece of paper that they dealt with you down the chain. And if that company gets sued, guess whose name is tagged along to that? Guess whose record gets pulled now? Guess who's being watched? Listen, I once had to deal with, I was doing front, what they call the info desk where I used to work. And sometimes we dealt, with very private records and stuff because of the types of benefits that we offered and the customers we dealt with. And so this is government kind of work. And so everything is very secure and you have protocols and all these things that you got to do. Well, it just so happens that there was like a red flag with a customer that I had to deal with, and I had to go through the proper channels to make notifications of what I was going through or dealing with or who was at my counter and blah, blah, blah. Well, eventually I got around to certain investigations because of the nature of that person with a criminal, it was a criminal in person or whatever. The point is that this person was fishing for information. I had no idea. I found out after the fact, and I'm like, so I'm all, want to play cop with the investigators. Like, so do you want to set me up on a sting operation? Do you want me to go out there and talk to them? I can pretend, that there was an issue with this. So like, you get all gung ho as a young little recruit kind of thing. You're like, I'll do this. I'll be involved. Let me play. Let me do this. I'll help you guys out. Catch the bad guy, right? Well, they were like, no, of course not. We're good. We don't need that. So as far as I know, everything was over and done with. Okay, go back about your regular day-to-day life. I promise you this. It was like 2 years or maybe a year. Yeah, a year or two from that moment, from that time. And I get the big boss calling me in, letting me know that my record is clear from that investigation. I'm like, hold up. You were investigating me or the person? Well, they were investigating that person, but they were investigating why that person came to my counter. Because he picked a number and I called that number. Serving number 23. And it just so happens I'm the one that he dealt with. So now I got on the radar for some bastard I don't even know. And the company I was serving, was looking at me that whole time twisted. I could put two and two together after the fact. I'm like, no wonder these big people that used to treat me well started treating me indifferent and weird and trying to isolate from. It's like you have a plague on you the moment they think you're involved in something illegal, because like I said, they fear legal stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, bitch, I fear legal stuff too, in the sense that I don't want my freedom taken. So I'm not going to do no stupid shit. Period. That's the level. That's where my integrity comes from. I don't want to do illegal shit because I don't want to deal with the consequence of legal action. And that's how it is. But when you know your rights, you know what's truly illegal and what's truly legal. And sometimes they'll try to use certain things to make it look like you're doing something illegal, when the ones that are doing something illegal are the ones trying to judge you. And then you got to go around hoops to prove. I mean, at that point, I didn't go around hoops, but I was treated differently for something that I like. Where was my right to know that they were looking into things from about me? And I was like all good about it. I was like, oh, okay, so you guys resolved the issue then? She's like, yep, everything's good. I had to sign a paper that said that them monitoring me, basically, or that them investigating me, I signed off on the paper that said that there was nothing found. And it's like, okay, but why didn't I sign a form saying that you guys can look? You see what I mean? Bitches, let me tell you, these mofos, they don't play right. And then, like, it's not a big deal because, like, you can make it sound all, like it's, on TV, people are like, oh, you go down to the precinct and you like, they get afraid, or you go to court. There's nothing more refreshing than to be involved with individuals that abide by the law, that abide by integrity. And the problem is, obviously, that there are people that work in positions of power that are supposed to uphold laws and policies and whatnot, but their own biases try to keep those that challenge it. They want to abide by the policy at all costs. And sometimes the reason they want to do it at all costs is not because of the policy itself, but because of who you are, because of who they see you as, or because of how they believe you are capable. Like, it's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until proven innocent.